I've always read fiction since I was a kid, from like Goosebump books to the readings that the class would recommend. I know a lot of like students hated that, but me secretly, I loved it. Every time they would assign us a new book, it's like, yeah, I love. I didn't like so much like writing the essays and doing all that, but at the end of the day, I think it helped me become a critical thinker, and like my writing skills are pretty good, so it helped me out a lot. But the reading part, I really enjoyed it. Carlos?
Yeah, I try to read fiction. I haven't been reading a lot of fiction lately because I've been really absorbed in my work and trying to read more scientific literature. But I read a collection of short stories recently I really enjoyed by a Japanese author named Haruki Murakami. And the collection of short stories is called Men Without Women. And it's really interesting. He basically does maybe 6 or 7 short stories in the book in which yeah, the uniting thread is he's looking at men who don't have partners or don't have partners in the traditional way that most of us would think a partner is involved in your life. Um, so yeah, I read fiction. I also agree that whatever it is that you imagine tends to be more entertaining than what gets digested to you by a screen. And I would also agree that reading fiction gives you an interesting lens with which to look at the world. And as a consequence, it does also make you a better critical thinker. That's what I got so far.
So, uh, do I read fiction? No, I do not. Do I read? Not really. If it's not the Bible, lately I don't read. Uh, but I've never been a fan of fiction books because I've always been a TV guy since I was a kid. Yeah, if I read anything, it's typically something nonfiction or self help. That's just been always my preference. However, this doesn't mean that I haven't read fiction books. I think right now, as I was thinking about books that I've read, and fiction books that I've read, a lot of them have been during high school and like in elementary school. And actually, it just like your question sparked up a lot of books. I was like, oh wow, I remember that book. So like I remember the first one I read that really kind of like impacted me when I was in elementary school was Aesop Fables. So it was like a lot of short stories like The Crow and the Lion or The Mouse and the Lion. You know, they're very popular fables, right? That kind of teach you a lesson. And and I don't know. I think in elementary school I really liked it. I've always been a kid and a guy who always judges a book by its cover, because I honestly like that cover. I love that cover. It like it was so bright blue, and I was like, wow. And I would read that, and I would read it over and over again. But I think two of the books that I can think of right now that really like impacted me was one was called Baseball in April by Gary Soto, and I think it's because of that book I really like baseball. Um, I mean, my family, my mom really likes she followed the Padres since she was young, and I kind of like baseball from that. But I remember that book because that book always explained. I remember the author, like I imagined like how a spring in Southern California would feel and sound with baseball, and and every time like April and May come around, like I always get